Belarusian democratic opposition, dear members, fellow Europeans, it is really an honor to welcome you again to the European Parliament. This conference is a joint effort bringing together the European Parliament, the European Commission and the European External Action Service in support of the courageous people of Belarus. It is just one event in our interinstitutional series of Belarus Days, packed with discussions, film screenings, exhibitions and more, sharing perspectives of the people of Belarus, stories and voices, asserting democratic Belarus's rightful place within our shared European family and sending the clearest of messages across our continent that the bonds that bind us Europeans cannot be broken. This is just the most recent in a long line of actions that the European Parliament has taken in support of your cause. Since the fraudulent 2020 presidential election, this House has adopted 11 resolutions on the tragic situation in Belarus. The one most recent, passed in September this year, repeats our long-standing demand for the immediate and unconditional release of all 1,350 political prisoners and those arbitrarily detained. These are mothers, fathers, sons, daughters. Each one has sacrificed their freedom in the struggle for democracy and truth against monstrous injustice, including Sviatlana, your husband, Sergei. His battle is ours. Know that Europe has not forgotten these brave individuals. Over the last 2 years, members of this Parliament have sent letters of support to political prisoners, and I myself am proud godmother to Palina Sharenda Panasiuk, sentenced to over 5 years in prison simply for standing up to Lukashenko's brutal regime. And Sviatlana and I have been discussing also the actions that we will take over the next weeks and months in order for us to continue this campaign. The defiance and determination of those imprisoned echoes in your actions here today. It is proof that the fight for a free and democratic Belarus is alive and strong. Europe stands with you in your fight and will continue to support your efforts. Last time we met, dear Sviatlana, you said that non-conventional times call for non-conventional decisions. And I would like to speak a little on these non-conventional times and our place in them. Europe's shared landscape is shifting. Across the continent, people are speaking up for their European future. We recently marked 1,000 days of Ukraine's fight for democracy and freedom following Russia's invasion. This Parliament has stood with Ukraine in this fight since day one, and our unwavering support will continue for as long as it takes. People are speaking up for democracy, standing up for freedom and choosing their own future. And when they look to Europe, they will find an ally and they will find a partner. Belarus must be part of this collective story, and we are working together to make this a reality. In Malta, we signed a letter of intent on cooperation that strengthens the connection between this Parliament and the democratic forces and civil society of Belarus. Standing here today at the beginning of the new European legislative term and ahead of the so-called presidential election in Belarus, I reaffirm this House's steadfast commitment to this cooperation and to your cause. So long live Europe and long live free Belarus. I now pass the floor to you, dear Commissioner, dear Marta Kos.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Madam President, dear Roberta, dear Sviatlana, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen. This conference here in this House is a testament to the vital role of the European Parliament playing in supporting the Belarusian fight for freedom and democratic values. We have honored this fight throughout the week with the Belarus Days. Over 100 Belarus participants have come to Brussels. I have met many of you yesterday to celebrate Belarusian culture and participate in political discussions with us. We have marked these Belarus Days through art exhibitions, through film, and just yesterday I attended together with Sviatlana an impressive performance of accordionist Yegor Zabelov and the Volny Chor, the Free Choir. Their music spoke the universal language of freedom, carrying forward Belarus's cultural heritage even in exile. In every note, in every voice, we heard the enduring spirit of a nation that refuses to be silenced. The Belarus Days come at a time of immense challenges. More than 4 years after the stolen elections of 2020, Belarus is once again approaching presidential elections. These elections are being prepared in an atmosphere of fear, marked by intimidation, repression, and censorship. Since 2020, the regime has fallen even deeper into authoritarianism. Over 1,300 political prisoners continue to endure harsh conditions in Belarus prisons. Each one represents a family torn apart and a dream of freedom put on hold. The influence of Russia on politics, economy, and society has grown significantly, and the Belarusian regime has made itself complicit in Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. Opposition parties have been banned, their leaders imprisoned or forced into exile. No real independent alternative exists in Belarus today, and we have witnessed the systematic dismantling of a once vibrant civil society. The figure of 1,800 liquidated civil society organizations stand for countless broken communities. The Belarusian Association of Journalists, the Belarusian Pen Center, led by Sviatlana Alexievich, the winner of the 2015 Nobel Prize in Literature, but also environmental NGOs, student associations, and even the Office for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. No sector has been spared. Many of you here today have been forced to leave your homeland because you fight for democracy, and a brighter and fairer future is only possible in exile. The European Union stands firmly with you. We know the difference between the people of Belarus and the regime that governs your country. We have stopped engagement with Belarusian public authorities and state-owned enterprises. EU sanctions have been imposed to put pressure on the regime. At the same time, we have strengthened our support to Belarusian democratic forces and civil society. Today, I am happy to announce a new assistance package for the people of Belarus worth €30 million. It will help sustain independent voices, protect human rights defenders, and help culture and education in exile. This brings our total support since 2020 to €170 million. This is a concrete expression of our solidarity. It has, for example, helped provide legal and medical support for more than 3,000 victims of repression, scholarships for over 3,000 students, and supported thousands of businesses in exile. Ladies and gentlemen, throughout European history, we have seen the spirit of freedom prevails against all odds. Today, that same spirit lives in the courage of the Belarusian people, the resilience of your exiled communities, and the creativity of your artists. I want you to know that the European Union will be by your side in your quest for a free, democratic, sovereign, and independent Belarus as part of a peaceful and prosperous Europe. Dear Sviatlana, yesterday we were together at the concert. It's difficult to be sad and happy at the same time, but this was the feeling I had, listening to you and to your music. I know what it means to fight for the freedom, but I don't know what it means to fight for the freedom when you cannot be at home. So you have to leave your home, your country, to be in a free world, to fight for a free country. So I'm deeply impressed and I admire what you are doing and what you, all people of Belarus, are doing to get your country free again. And we are on your side.
Thank you very much, dear Commissioner Kos. I now pass the floor to Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, the leader of the Belarusian Democratic Forces. Sviatlana, you have the floor.
Thank you, dear President Metsola, dear Commissioner Kos, dear members of European Parliament, representatives of the European Union, ambassadors, special envoys to democratic Belarus, excellencies, friends that are here, Belaruskие сябры. First of all, dear Roberta, let me thank you. In times of crisis and war, the world needs leaders like you. Leaders who are firm, leaders who are principled and brave, leaders who call things by their names and confront tyranny no matter where it appears. I often say that democracy must show its teeth, and your courage, your unwavering support for Belarus and Ukraine is a true example that inspires us. Thank you. Dear Commissioner Kos, thank you for yesterday's meeting. It was really wonderful conversation. Yesterday we talked about fighting tyranny, about women power, about support to people of Belarus, and I'm so pleased to gain a new real friend of democratic Belarus. Thank you so much. To all the members of this Parliament, thank you. Since the very beginning of our peaceful uprising in 2020, you have been standing with us. Our fight is far from over, but I believe that together we can free Belarus and make it democratic. You know, I really dream of a day when our white, red, white flag stands here among the flags of the European Union, when Belarusian democratically elected politicians sit here as equals alongside you. My special thanks go to Malgorzata Gazevska and to Michal Koboska, the leaders of the EP delegation for relations with Belarus, as well as to all rapporteurs, Helmut Brandstetter, Sven Mikser, Ondřej Kolarz, Martin Stakis, and to all Tom advocates for Belarus, such as David McAllister, Rasa Yuknevichenia, Andrzej Galitsky, Teis Reuten, Danius Žalimas, Eva Kopach, Sergei Lagodinsky, Eva Meidel, or Pina Picherna, and many, many others. Thank you, dear friends, for keeping Belarus on the agenda in European Parliament and beyond. Here in the European Parliament, Belarus unites us. Across parties, across groups, we are united. Because our fight for Belarus is not just about one country. It's about the fight for Europe. It's about the values that we hold so dear. I'm especially proud that this conference, taking place during the Belarus Days in Brussels, a shining example of the partnership between Belarus and European Union, but also between European institutions such as DG NEAR, the European External Action Service, the European Parliament, European Economic and Social Committee, and many others. The Belarus Days are the largest Belarus-related event ever happened in Brussels. It's truly unprecedented and unconventional. As I usually say, and Roberta as well, you know, unconventional times need non-conventional actions. Right now, the heart of Europe beats for Belarus, and we Belarusians will never, never forget this solidarity. Dear friends, Belarus is Europe, geographically, mentally, emotionally, and this is fact. Belarus has always been part of Europe. Despite centuries of oppression by empires and tyrannies, Belarusians have always fought for a European future. In 2020, Belarusians showed the world who we are, a European nation. 4 years later, we are still ready for change and still ready for democratic transition. We Belarusians don't need an imperial Russia to tell us how to live or what to do. We have our own pride, our own culture, our own identity. And this is what we are defending. This is what Russia is trying to destroy. The European Union is more than just a partner for us. It's the only alternative to the Russian world. As the Nobel Peace Prize winner and now political prisoner Les Bialiatski said, only in the European Union can the survival of our nation and of our state be guaranteed. As we speak, my country is under creeping occupation. Russia, with the help of a homegrown dictator, is trying to destroy everything that connects us to Europe. They erase our culture and rewrite our history. 9 million people are taken hostage. Thousands are in prison just because they dared to speak for freedom, for the European future, against the war, or in support of Ukraine. But despite all the risks, the terror and war, our fight continues. Our journalists, activists, human rights defenders, artists stand together and continue working on bringing Belarus to change. And many of them are in this room today. Many of them will speak on this stage, and they are real heroes of our time. I always say that no one can liberate Belarus single-handedly. It's our common task and duty. It's our obligation to release political prisoners and bring our country to free and fair elections, but not the farce that we are going to see in January. It is our task to free Belarus from Russian claws, revive our national identity, and to make Belarus the donor of peace and security, not a constant threat. But of course, we cannot do this alone. We need allies, we need support, and we need a vision of the future. Belarusians want to hear from you that when the moment comes, Europe's door will be opened for us, and we will not left alone face to face with Russian beast. And this is why I'm here today, to ask you help bring changes to Belarus, to support our fight, our movement, our fearless journalists and the repressed, our activists and students, our culture and identity. Supporting Belarus, you invest in your own security and democracy worldwide. I ask you not to build the Iron Curtain. Isolating and sanctioning the regime, we must not isolate people. We need to build more ties, partnerships, connections. We need more visas and scholarships for the youth. We need more Europe in Belarus and more Belarus in Europe. I ask you to see Belarus, democratic Belarus, as your partner and ally. And I'm glad that we as democratic forces already work together. This year, we signed a memorandum with President Metsola and the European Parliament. Yesterday, we concluded a consultative group with the European Commission. And all this shows that our bonds get only stronger. Democratic changes in Belarus can also help Ukraine, but also vice versa. Ukraine's victory can open a new window of opportunity for us. And this is why I always urge everyone, give Ukraine everything it needs to win this war. You know, we don't know exactly how or when change will come to Belarus, but we must be prepared for this. As Syria has shown, dictatorships seem invincible until they suddenly collapse. And even a powerful ally cannot save a dictator. Yesterday, here in European Parliament, we presented a package of reforms and draft of constitution for the new Belarus. These drafts aim to ensure a smooth transition to prepare Belarus for European integration and to prevent any rise of dictatorship again. And we need more than only laws. We need people who will implement this change. And I am pleased to welcome here today the participants of the Personal Reserve, our project to prepare professionals for New Belarus. And I encourage our European partners present here to give Belarusians scholarships and internships so they can learn democracy firsthand. You know, in this room we have a tapestry of Belarusian democratic forces. Representatives of the United Transitional Cabinet, Coordination Council, civil society and experts, cultural figures, journalists and human rights defenders. You may have different views and backgrounds, but we all are united by one goal: democratic, free and European Belarus. Dear friends, you know, in our fight we need patience, but even more we need consistency. Consistency from ourselves, but consistency from our allies as well. I know that there can be moments of temptation to go back to business as usual, to appease the dictator, to make a deal, you know, and move on. But we must not allow this. We cannot give in to fatigue. We cannot abandon our political prisoners. We must fight until every one of them is released, until Belarus is free. We have already achieved so much, but I know that together we can achieve even more. Together we can finish what we have started, and together we can win, and we will win. Thank you. Живи Belarus, and long live Europe.
Thank you so much, dear Sviatlana, for those powerful words and that strong message. I now pass the floor to David McAllister, Chair of the Committee on Foreign Affairs.
Thank you very much, Madam President, for now giving me the floor. I have the honour of now chairing a panel. I understand that President Metsola will now be leaving us. May I ask the panelists in the meantime to come up front? That is Ms. Melnikova, Mr. Liepniecka, Mr. Schreitman, Mr. Siebert and Ms. Kirali. And we'll start in about 120 seconds.